There's all the spray foam underneath. There's the old one. There's the new one. And look at the cuts. You can see that the top part there is the floor and the bottom part's the subfloor. And here it is again. Subfloor, felt paper. Look at how thick that actual wood floor is. This is back from 1957, folks. Look at the two holes. That's the one I just cut. It's a little bit to the left, but it's pretty close to being in the middle. See that? And here's the existing one. So we'll cap that one. We'll put this one on right here. This is my new trunk duct. This long one here, that runs perpendicular to the floor joists. The floor joists are those brown things that run left to right on your screen, okay? Now, in my old setup, I had a takeoff going to the right, like that one, and then I had an opposite one going directly off to the left, so that the air had to make a tough decision. I want to do it right now. So I'm moving the branch, so this is the trunk right here, guys, and the branch is going to come over here, and it's going to come out right there. That's the old one. I'm moving it from this joist bay right here, where you can see, to this one right here, oops, over there on the right. This one on the right traces all the way back to that takeoff right there. That's not the smoothest takeoff that you could do. It's going to induce a little bit extra static pressure, but we're going to roll with it for right now. This is my first house. So what I have to do is I'm going to knock these two supports out. I'm going to move those two over to this joist bay, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to cut a hole through the floor just like that one was already cut. So I measured from the center of there over 16.5 inches to there. Got that measurement on my tape, and I'm going to go upstairs, take off the grill, measure from there to there, and then cut the hole. That's a 12-inch wide hole by 2 inches deep. I'm going to do the same thing right here. If I'm being careful, turn off the power so you don't bust through and hit those wires and kill yourself or shock yourself or something, okay? So I will go upstairs now and show you the rest. Okay, check it out. That's the existing old supply there. I took off the little white grate, and now we're going to move it over from right here to right here. So I already measured. I know right where the floor joist is. So I measured over 16.5 inches, which puts me to my center point right here, and then I measured 6 inches off from that on each side, okay? 6 inches off here, 6 inches off here. And how did I get this center point? Well, I went downstairs and I measured from the center of this vent over to the center of the floor of the joist bay to the right of it, and I figured out what that number was, and I came back up here, put the tape right in the exact same spot, and I made my mark. So the center's at 17. I measured 6 to the left, 6 to the right. So I'm cutting out a 12-inch hole right here, right up against the drywall. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. In order to do that, guys and gals, I'm using this is like one of these trimmer tools. So it's gonna be really exact and just go nice and slow. Cut this whole thing out. Never done this before. Honestly, cutting it into a wood floor from a house from 1957 makes me a little nervous. I'm not sure how I'm gonna patch this up, but I'm probably gonna take out this old piece of metal and put a subfloor and then a little piece of wood back in there and try to make it look as nice as possible. I'm trying to do the duct work right, and you don't want two takeoffs directly across from each other, okay folks? Do it right. It's the comfort of your house. You spend a ton of time there. Do it right. You got this. Now do it. So I'm using a headlamp to highlight where I am cutting. You need a lot of light there to see that really thin line. Make sure that you mark the lines on the baseboard and on that little molding there with a pencil, and then you can use a square to also put the marks on the floor. You're going to need to cut off that baseboard in addition to cutting that rectangle in the floor. As I'm moving along here and I cut off the little quarter round molding there, that little strip I just took off, I pry it off with my multi-tool so that I can get further into that big baseboard piece. And as I'm pushing that saw into the baseboard, you'll notice a point where it gets a little bit spongy, and that means you've broken through the wood and you're starting to go into the drywall. So at that point, you want to stop. When you're prying off the baseboard with that multi-tool, which is down the floor there, want to pry off really slowly and gently, because if you crank on it really hard, you're going to put a gouge into that drywall. Now in this part of the video, I'm continuing to use the multi-tool that I got, that Ryobi one, for about $100, and I'm turning the blade to 90 degrees so that I can get closer back there to where the floor meets the drywall. You'll also notice that I have to cut along the wall where the floor hits the drywall, and that's because the subfloor goes all the way under there, even though the finished floor does not. I'm just double checking some measurements here and making sure I've got a really straight line. One last tip I'll leave you with here, folks, is that when you cut out that hole for the new supply duct, you want it to be the same size or a little bit bigger than the hole that you're going to be covering up. That way you can take that piece of finished wood flooring and just move it over to the other spot and fit it in there, or maybe trim it down a little bit, and you don't have to go to the store to buy a whole new piece. I made that mistake. You guys can be better than me. So good luck with that. One last thing I'll say too is that if when you're cutting, your blade is not going straight into the hole, the blade's going to get really hot and it's going to start to smoke because of all the friction that you're generating between the side of the blade and that wood. That wood is at least, 3/4 inch thick for the finished floor and another 3/4 inch thick for the subfloor. So you got 1.5 inch thick wood in a 1957 house. If you have an old house, yours is probably similar. So it's really important that your blade goes in perfectly perpendicular to the cut. And you watch here in my video some of the smoke coming up. It got super smoky. I ran a vacuum to suck it up, but it's because I wasn't cutting perfectly square to the hole. Guys, good luck. You can do the project. It's not very hard. And I hope you have a happy holidays. A little piece of black paper, felt paper, and then bang, wood floor. That's your whole floor assembly right there. Isn't that cool? Wow! Oops, let's vacuum this all up. Done.